Hello everyone, welcome to this video. So in this video, we continue our discussion for the exam 2 preparation with the multiple choice. So last time we talked about chapter 7, this time we talk about chapter 8. You should be able to see chapter 8 in the packet after you do chapter 7. So the next one is chapter 8. I already did my notes. I just go through my notes directly as I say. For each chapter, as I said, for each chapter, I left a blanket page for you to let you do your notes. I want to share my notes with you. Chapter 8 talking about relevant information and for short-term decision making. So we talk about just very one-time special order, just 1 year, something like that, short-term. First, read the textbook to make sure you know what's the meaning of relevant information. It has to happen in the future and then also makes differences. You have to have these two criteria together. So sunk cost will already happen with do you see that in English? Water under the bridge, those are already the sunk cost already happened. It can never be relevant. And then relevant information can be financial, can be numbers. You buy Honda, is $10,000. You buy Toyota, it's $11,000. So there is different, then that will be relevant. But it can also be non-financial factors. What's the meaning? You say, hey, I have two pens, right? One is blue, one is red. I like red. So they are the same price. They are $1, $1. But because of the red, it's non-financial numbers. It's not just about the price, but because of the color, or because of the quality, because of the design. So that also makes differences. That will also be relevant. And then we should use the contribution margin. We don't use absorption, the total cost. We focus on relevant information, and then we also do incremental analysis. That's what we did in chapter 8. So it's really more understanding part. Focus on relevant information. Don't use all the information. We just do incremental. What's the difference? What's the extra? What's the increase? What's avoided? What will be affected? So those are our relevant information. And then we apply that thing to 4 different situations we did in chapter 8. We talk about first one is special order. So I just supported textbook, make sure you read those things. We said when you do special order, you don't think about your regular selling price. Your focus is whether your incremental, your extra revenue is more than your incremental cost. Okay, so you normally make this red pen at like $1 variable cost, you sell at $10. But now I said, hey, I want to get a special order only for this blue pen, and I just give it $2. Variable cost is still $1. I want to buy it at $2. So your incremental revenue is $2. Your incremental cost is $1. So you should get my special order because you still earn $1. So that is kind of a general idea of special order. And then we will talk about discontinued products. That is also from your textbook. I'm not going to read one more time, but basically you focus on, you say, hey, you're thinking about discontinue a product or a department or whatever. When you discontinue, you can save some money, but you will lose some money. So if you save more, then you should discontinue. You say, hey, I'm not going to make this blue pen. If I don't make it, I save $5. But then I will lose $3. You save 5, you lose 3, so you still save more, then you should discontinue it. But if you say, hey, I just save $8, but I will lose $10, then you should not discontinue it. That's the logic. Make sure you read textbook about avoidable fixed cost and the unavoidable fixed cost. So avoidable fixed cost is relevant. Unavoidable fixed cost is not relevant. That's how I'm doing. I just say, hey, this is relevant, and unavoidable is irrelevant. Okay, thank you. I just write it here. Next one, talking about product mix with a constrained resource. we have to focus on the one with the highest contribution margin per unit of the constraint. We talk about that in class. We said, hey, you just have $400, 400 hours of a machine hour, you know, kind of those things. Find the one that has higher contribution margin per machine hour. And then I didn't do this in class, but I said, hey, make sure you know this in the my accounting lab. I also post a solution. So if our demand is limited, what should we do? Last thing is outsourcing. We also call it a make or buy. I have really not too much to say. So if you make total relevant cost is $2, if you buy total relevant cost is $3, then you should make which one gives you lower relevant cost. But one thing is about the opportunity cost. So how do we use the freed capacity? If we buy, we can use the freed capacity to do something else. Make sure you really do this one, and then you will have question regarding the freed capacity and then the opportunity cost, that part. Okay, question 8, I feel it's hard to really test you from multiple choice because different people have different thinking. In the exam, I think more likely will be the problem. So as long as you show the proper logic, you know, you get the right conclusion, it's like a math. So I basically test you from the problem part. Okay, go through multiple choice and then mainly focus on concept. We said never relevant, I just put some cost because it's already happened. You have to happen in the future to be relevant. And then we said, hey, you should use qualitative and then quantitative information. We talk about price and then the color, you know, those things is false. We said relevant is not always about financial. It can be non-financial, right? We said about the color, about the quality, about the design. Question 4, talking about for short-term decision making, we focus on the relevant CVP analysis, focus on contribution margin. We don't use the absorption, and then we focus on relevant information. Question 5 is the same. I'm not going to read too much. Question 6, we said never relevant is the sunk cost. We talk about that. It's already happened. Question 7, this one said about your relevant information. So talking about said if you should close the plant. We said if you sell your plant, you can get money, then the money will be relevant because if you sell it in the future, you know, you get $15, so that is extra money, and then that happens in the future. So that is relevant information. But about the plant of the purchase price you paid 5 years ago, that's the sunk cost. It will not be relevant. Okay, it will not be relevant because already happened. You cannot go back 5 years ago to make any changes. Question 8 talking about said is similar with question 3. I'll just say false. It can be non-financial factors. And then question 9 talking about decision making relevant cost. Okay, so we said it's always the future cash flow that differs among the alternatives. Some students said, hey, how about the say all revenues and expense that differ among the alternatives? So you say they are differ, but you have to make sure they happens in the future. It's not all revenue and expense, it's the future revenue and expense that differ among the alternative. You have to make sure it's the future revenue and future cost. Okay, question 10, talking about never be used. We have been seeing this fixed cost per unit has been in the active duty many times. And then question 11, I'm not going to really read, but the question said, oh, the answer is D. I think I didn't put it. Read your textbook. We didn't say too much, but you have to consider all of these things, whether you have extra capacity, whether your incremental revenue will cover incremental cost, and then whether you will affect your regular sales in the long term. And question 12, talking about the other things that you should still consider. We said A is not correct because you cover incremental cost. It's not all the cost. Whether you have a extra capacity, that is right, you should consider. And then whether the special order is the same as your regular, we said we don't think about your regular, you just think about the incremental revenue, incremental cost. Okay, so you can compare 11 and 12, those two questions. Question 13, okay, question 13, talking about when you have the special order, what you should do, right? So you receive special order 20,000 units, and then the price for the special order is $30, it's $10 cheaper. You don't need to worry. That means your regular selling price is $40. Hey, I don't care regular selling price. Variable cost for that special order is $20. So your incremental revenue is $30 each time 20,000 units. Your incremental cost is $20 times your 20,000 units. Your fixed cost will not be affected. So there is no incremental of your fixed cost. So your question said, should you take it, yes or no? We said you should take it if your variable cost and fixed cost is, you know, the same. We said if your fixed cost is not changed, and then your variable cost is still $20, your incremental revenue is $30 times 20,000 units. Your incremental variable cost is $20 times your units, then you should take it. Okay, manager should accept it if you have excess capacity. Yeah, if you don't have excess capacity, it's another story. Maybe you have to rent another house. Remember, you have to think about whether you have the excess capacity, yes or no, right? Whether you have excess capacity, yes or no. Whether you should either your customer will be affected. Remember, it's the same. Whether your regular sales will be affected, yes or no. So we think about all of this. So 13 and then 11, 12, they are similar. Question 14 and question 15 are made up those two questions. Let's look at how many questions I have. Okay, spend a little time on question 14 and 13. So you said, hey, you are thinking about a special order. A variable cost is $10 each. Fixed cost is 100,000 per year. Selling price is 15. We said we don't really care. And then you have a special order, 110,000 units. Because this, you don't need the logo, so you can save $2 of your variable cost. The total fixed cost will not be affected. Selling price for that special order is $9. So first I'll ask you, what is relevant information? We said your normal selling price is not relevant, but your variable cost and the save of your variable cost is relevant. The incremental revenue is relevant, but fixed cost is not affected, so it's not relevant. And I ask you, should you take the order, yes or no? We compare our incremental revenue with our incremental cost. Fixed cost is not affected, so there is no incremental fixed cost. Our incremental variable cost is totally, you normal is $10, but because this special order, you don't need, you can save one step, so maybe you can save $2. So your incremental variable cost for this special order is $8 for each, and then you have 110,000 units. Incremental revenue is $9, and then you have 110,000 units. So we said your incremental revenue, $99,000 is more than $88,000. So you should take the special order. Sorry. Question 15 is similar. The only thing I changed is now your fixed cost will be increased by 200,000. So now you have an incremental fixed cost, and then your incremental fixed cost is relevant now. So your incremental variable cost is 880,000, but your incremental fixed cost is 200,000. So your total incremental cost will be $1,080,000, and your incremental revenue is 990,000. So your incremental cost is more than your incremental revenue, then you should not take this special order. So make sure you work on question 14 and 15. You know the difference, and then you get the right answer. Okay, so when you do that in special order, you just think about your incremental cost and incremental revenue. Question 16, talking about that, said when you do the special order, what is the lowest price, right? So we said the lowest price is the one that covers the incremental cost. So that means your incremental revenue can cover your incremental cost, which means you have the positive incremental contribution margin. It doesn't need to be positive in gross profit or positive income, but it's not just a variable cost of goods sold. You have to cover all of the variable cost, all of the relevant variable costs, I would say, including, you know, if you have variable sale, administrative, you know, those things. So basically, we use incremental is whether you can cover all of the relevant variable cost. So which means you have to have a positive contribution margin. Okay, question 16, I have nothing too much. Said profit is similar with the earning and the income, and the revenue is similar with the sales. Question 18, talking about you are thinking about shutting down something, and then when you close this factory, you will have impact, you will have a change in your sales, wage expense, and then utility expense. So that will be our relevant cost, right? Because you can decrease your sales, you don't have that sales, but you also save some expense and then utility expense. So our decision making, the relevant information will be the change of sales, the change of utility, and then the change of wage expense. Depreciation expense normally is not relevant because when you do financial accounting, you should know it's basically straight line. So there is no change most likely. And this question doesn't talk about depreciation. It said you will only affect sales, wage, and then utility. Question 19, talking about this one. So talking about what will happen if you close your economic department. So we said to be relevant, it has to make changes, and then it has to happen in the future. So for the part choice B, it already happened 10 years ago. It's already some cost. And A and C, they are wrong because there is no, they are not affecting our economic department. They are affecting nursing school and art and science. But choice D is relevant because if you discontinue the economic department, people working there will be laid off. So you have to think about them because that is a difference. Nursing and art and science, they are not related with the economic department. Question 20, they said answer is A, so I said read your textbook is basically there. I even put the number there, it's middle part. So your question said is basically if you decided to discontinue it. So we said you are thinking about discontinue, you already decided to discontinue because the money you saved from discontinue will be less than the money. Okay, let me think about it. You will discontinue this department because the money you will save is less than the extra cost you have to pay. So your cost, okay, hold on. Okay, your cost saving exists the lost revenue from discontinue. So you will discontinue because, okay. Let me see, revenue, okay. A and B, they are always kind of, even for me, I feel sometimes, okay. So if lost revenue exceed the cost saving, so you will lose $5, but you can only save $3. You will lose 5, you will save 3, then you will not discontinue. So B is wrong because you decided to discontinue. And you know C and D, they are wrong. So total cost saving. So you will save $10, but you will only lose $8. You will save $10, you will lose $8. Then you should discontinue. So the answer is A. Don't know you got it or you are confused. Question 20, we said it's not relevant. If you read textbook, unavoidable fixed cost is not relevant because no matter you do something, it's unavoidable. If you do something, it's $5. You don't do something, it's still $5. It's not avoidable, and there is no change. So it's not relevant. Question 22, think about this is just there. We talk about there. Which one give you highest contribution margin per unit of the constraint? Question 23 is similar. I'm not going to read it too much. And then question 24, we talk about similar with a machine hour. Yes, for the mama latte, each one is a $20 contribution margin. For the jam is 15, but you can make 2 jams. So your total contribution margin is 30, more than this 20 because you can only make 1. So we should focus on jam, on the one with a higher contribution margin per machine hour. Similarly, no, not similar. Question 25, we're not thinking about make or buy decision. And then when you think about make or buy, you should focus on the one that has a lower cost, incremental cost. If you make variable cost is $17, excuse me. And then if you buy, it's $20 for each one. If you make a fixed cost is $110,000. If you buy, okay, you can save 30%. That means you only have 70%. Okay, this is the important part. When you buy, the fixed cost will be only 70% of 110,000. So your fixed cost of buy is 77,000. So your total cost of make is 280. Your total cost is buy of 277,000. So if you buy, you can save 3,000. You can save 3,000 for the cost. Your cost will be decreased by 3,000. That means your income will increase by 3,000. Okay. Question 26. Concept, I'm not going to say too much. It's in your textbook. I just put it said outsource. It doesn't mean really just oversee. Offshore means oversee. Outsource is just you don't make it by yourself, but you can still, you know, in domestic, right? I don't make it. I give some supplier from Santa Luis, from Texas. So that is also outsourcing, but doesn't mean you have to put it overseas. Question 27, talking about what is relevant information when you think about make or buy. We said that that is making differences. If you make, you have to use labor. If you make, you have to use material. And then, but the allocated fixed cost will not be relevant. Allocated is just the artificial allocation. It will not be relevant. Allocated fixed cost is not relevant. But if the actual fixed cost is increased or decreased, let's say because, you know, because of your buying or making, you have to rent a new space, you know, you can save the rent or something, your actual fixed cost is affected, then that will be relevant. But your allocated will not be relevant. Last one, question 28, talking about opportunity cost. Nothing too much is I want to get Starbucks, I have to give McDonald's. The McDonald's is my opportunity cost. It's what you give up to do what you get. Okay, thank you everyone. Let me know if you have any question. We will talk about chapter 9 in the next video. Thank you.